Hello and welcome to the Banker Masterclass. My name is Duygu Tavan. I'm the technology editor at the Banker, and I'm joined by John Byrne, who's the CEO of Information Mosaic. Today, we'll be talking about post-trade services.
Thank you, Duygu, for inviting me here.
John, thanks a lot for coming. So today we'll be covering regulation, we'll be talking about big data, we'll be talking about transformation, but I think as with so many cases nowadays, regulation is obviously a very big topic. So let's start with that. What are some of the big regulations that are impacting banks at the moment?
Well, if you look at regulation is actually going to start changing banks' business models. And I think it's also significant in that a lot of banks are going to fundamentally decide what are their core competencies and what businesses they're going to stay in and what businesses they're also going to divest. Everybody has heard about Basel III. Some of the more unpalatable aspects of it are going to be postponed for a while. But I think what's important to understand is that it's not just Basel III, it's not just Dodd-Frank in the US, it's not just ACAFIM, it's not just UCITS 5, for example. It's the compounding effect of all of these regulations together.
Mm-hmm. And you mentioned the compounding effect, but then we've also recently seen that Basel III has changed, in a way probably in a better way for banks, but if these regulations, if their deadlines are pending and they keep changing all the time, how can banks actually make sure that they can comply with regulation that might change again in a few months?
So there's really two parts of the regulation. One is the reporting, so it's about producing all of these reports and being compliant. The second part of that is just the workload that it's going to involve, because operations in the post-trade, post-trade is really about anything after the trade is made. So it's all of those parts of the business after that. Mm-hmm. What's now happening is, in addition to all of the different parts of the process, there's now going to be a volume of work to be done in terms of producing reports. A lot of market participants are worried right now about whether or not they can actually run these reports at all. But things are going to go and move beyond that, so that it's about how efficiently are you going to run those reports. What are you actually going to do with the compounded information that you can get? Mm-hmm. But the first part of it is people have to comply, and then second part is people have to run reports.
You mentioned keyword there, efficiency, mm-hmm. and the banks already have obviously some IT systems in place, but are these IT systems efficient enough to deal with these new wave of regulation, or do they need to do something else to comply with the regulation?
Well, I think it very much depends. I think efficiency is obviously key. If you look at the post-trade area, some market participants have been investing over a period of time in their post-trade technology, and some have not. I think if you look at the organizations that are not taking a piecemeal approach, that are taking a holistic approach, are much better positioned. Mm-hmm. I'll give you an example of that. In that, if you take data, and data quality is now becoming extremely important. We refer to the cleansing of data, we refer to having a very high quality of data, or a golden record. Mm-hmm. That's where a golden record is, where you have a piece of data that's safe enough that you can make a decision on a critical transaction based on that. Okay. So it's a level of precision with that data. There are organizations that have been making those investments over a period of time, and then there's the organizations that have taken an ad hoc approach. It's mm-hmm. going to be more or less impossible from here on in to take an ad hoc approach in this area.
I see. And we'll come back to big data in one of the next chapters. But one final question I wanted to ask you for this chapter is there an opportunity for new market players and a sort of threat by the existing players?
If you look at banking for a long time, it's been about capital, and the regulations, for mm-hmm. example, are about capital adequacy. I think what's very clear is that capital for all the participants is a scarce resource, But the other capital that's very important in banking, and indeed, for example, in our own organisation, is intellectual capital. So it's in the real detailed know-how and capability to do all of those things. And what's going to differentiate a lot of the players going forward isn't necessarily just going to be about the banks that control a lot of capital around. It's going to be the players who really have got the intellectual capital and have made the investments to be happy about carrying out some business activities in a highly regulated area.
And that obviously that would then lead to questions about governance and risk, which we'll be talking about in our second chapter.